thing that was so confusing to me about Shadows Fund was that it was called Shadows Fund. And they're like, well, no, but they have dogs. And I'm like, but it's called a fund. Like, I just couldn't figure out how that name could translate to a place. So I, filled out an online form, and their volunteer coordinator called me, and I went out for a tour and a sort of initiation, and they wanted to meet me, and I wanted to meet them. And I spent probably the first day, I spent, 2.5 hours out there. And I just remember coming home and saying, that is just the most amazing place I've ever been. I mean, it was the epitome of everything that you wanted for a dog. And they had made it happen, in the middle of California in Lompoc, up in a canyon. You're just like, no, I've never heard of this place before. Nobody's ever heard of it before. Nobody, even local people, you talk to people around here, they've never heard of it. Like, nobody knew it was there. And I was like, how can you not know about this incredible place and the things that they are doing? And you spend 15 minutes with Jill and Cody, and you realize they're like the smartest animal behavior people you've ever met in your life. Like, their whole approach is so opposite of anybody else's approach, because they let the dog tell them what the dog needs, as opposed to the human telling the dog what the human needs from the dog. So it's a total flip around, but it's genius because, of course.
In 2009, we co-founded Shadows Fund to honor the memory of our dog Shadow, an amazing senior dog who was thrown away but never lost hope. We started as a fund, $250 to be exact, but as we dove headfirst into the world of animal rescue, we quickly realized that we needed to do more. There were animals, senior dogs like Shadow, dogs labeled as pit bulls, that were being left behind and dying in our local shelters because nobody was stepping up for them. When we started in this industry, first thing that sort of was apparent to us was it's an industry that's very much about efficiency and numbers, and sort of has to be, right? There's so many animals ending up in shelters that need homes, and they've got to find those homes quickly because more are coming in, and a lot of organizations are helping to meet that need, getting animals out of the shelter and into homes. But what stood out for us when we sort of took a step back was there's a group of animals being left behind in that scenario. In 2010, we opened the doors to the Sheltering Oaks Sanctuary. With very little funding, mostly provided by Jill and Cody, who still worked full-time jobs, and entirely volunteer labor, the sanctuary was built. As word got out, more people started showing up to help. Together, we continued to rescue hundreds of dogs, make improvements at the sanctuary, and advocate for the most vulnerable shelter dogs.
Something that Jill and Cody are really proud of is that every dog gets attention every day. Whether it's couch time, a car ride, a walk, playtime, socialization with other dogs.
The main thing that keeps me coming back here is just the absolute respect with which the dogs are treated.
If I was a dog, this is where I would want to be. If I didn't have my forever family, I would want to be in a place like this, because it's like coming home to your living room every night and somebody sit and watch movies with you and play with you, walk you. It's just wonderful. It's a wonderful place.
They created this setting where it feels like home for dogs that most likely would have been euthanized in a shelter setting. They basically saved those dogs, and then they've created these home-like environments. You can feel it when you walk into the sanctuary because they're very strategic and conscious about how to keep the dogs quiet and calm. It's amazing you can walk through the sanctuary, but it's not like a kennel. It's not physically or even audibly. It was kind of an epiphany after doing this for 6 or 7 years. It was something completely new. It was kind of inspiring what they did, and they did a lot of work to set this up. This was not an easy thing to do.
This was a time when people still crossed the street if they saw a pit bull walking by. We invested a lot of effort in advocating for those dogs, to help change a misperception that was costing good dogs their lives. These dogs needed a voice, and we decided to be that voice. In 2012, we learned that the land we were leasing for the sanctuary was for sale. We spent the next year working tirelessly to raise the money for the down payment and secure a mortgage loan. In 2013, we reached that goal and bought the sanctuary. In 2014, we created the Bright Beginnings program, an early intervention program to help at-risk, backyard-bred puppies so that they did not end up in the shelter as adults. Our program provided spay-neuter, vaccinations, socialization, and placed our puppies in homes with adoption contracts that required those puppies come back to us if they could no longer care for them. We helped hundreds of mostly pit bull puppies find permanent homes, grow up to be ambassadors for their breed, and never see the inside of a shelter. And by the way, we didn't forget about the parents. Dogs like Nala, who were surrendered to a shelter ready to give birth, were given the care they needed in a home until the puppies were ready for adoption, and then we helped Mama find her happily ever after. Or Mabel, who actually gave birth inside a shelter. She and her puppies were taken in through our Bright Beginnings program, and all of them are thriving today. Mabel was even adopted with one of her puppies, and the pair of them are living a beautiful life with a family that will love them for all of their days. At the sanctuary, we spent the next several years learning and growing, but mostly, we spent it listening. I think one of the sort of pivotal moments in the evolution of the sanctuary was figuring out how to create an environment that helped some of the most challenging dogs.
Champ, he was a dog that was more or less institutionalized. He got to be a dog again. And when you see a dog transform from this scared, frustrated, overwhelmed little being to this soft, happy, friendly dog, it just blew us away. And we immediately asked ourselves, what happened here? When that light bulb went off and we realized that it was the time and understanding that he hadn't had before, it made us realize that every moment that we interact with these dogs at the sanctuary every single day is an opportunity to listen, to understand them at a deeper level. The sanctuary became a home for dogs who were unadoptable and struggling in our local shelters. Atlas, who we would later call Big Al, was one of those dogs. We were asked to help him, and when I met him at the shelter, it was clear just how frustrated and stressed he was. That stress was creating a dog that was unsafe to handle in that environment. When Al arrived at the sanctuary, we knew right away he was going to thrive here. He quickly bonded with Gabby, our canine welfare manager, and they formed a beautiful friendship. With every passing week, Al's behavior softened, and we got to see the good boy that he truly is. As the vision for the sanctuary was slowly being realized, we turned our focus to the community. There was so much need and so much crisis that we could not just stop at the sanctuary. Those dogs that we helped taught us everything. We didn't learn what we know by rescuing hundreds of dogs, we learned by listening to them.
What I've always said to Jill is that I would like her knowledge, her understanding of dogs to be a thing that other people could share. Other people could also understand, but they have such a unique approach to the way that they work with their dogs behaviorally and the way that they understand the dog's lives and the dog's needs and the dog's anxieties. Let the dog tell you what the dog needs and then you give it to them.
Reba was a dog in danger of slipping through the cracks. She could not use her back legs to stand or walk and was in a local shelter where it was unlikely she would be adopted. But the sanctuary was also full. Shadows Fund worked with shelter staff and volunteers and found Reba a home willing to work with her special needs. With their loving care, Reba regained use of her back legs and got stronger every day. She has since passed, but Reba enjoyed many years living happily and being loved by her family. Working with our local shelters to find well-matched homes for dogs who are struggling was the genesis of our Take Me Home program. Since its inception in 2015, hundreds of shelter dogs that we did not have room for at the sanctuary have gone home. Dogs like Blanco, who found their home up in the Pacific Northwest. Dogs like Norma Jean, who were really struggling and shut down, found the home she needed to help her blossom into a happy, loving dog. In the wake of the pandemic, dogs started flooding into shelters in record numbers. While we expanded our capacity at the sanctuary to house even more dogs and worked to find homes for shelter dogs, we knew we had to do something to keep dogs from ending up in the shelter in the first place. In 2021, our Keep Me Home program was born. Using what we learned at the sanctuary about behavior, how to rehome a dog safely and compassionately, and even how to build a solid fence, we went out into the community to be the support families in crisis needed. People like Sandra and her family were facing devastating loss when their home of 17 years was pulled out from under them. Losing their beloved dogs Brava and Kino only made the pain more unbearable.
My parents' dogs, we were losing them because my parents had to relocate to a new location after living 17 years in their address. We reached out to many foundations, but nobody was really able to help us other than Shadows Fund. I prayed every night for a miracle, and when it came through, I couldn't believe it. I wanted to keep them together. And when Shadows Fund reached out to us and said they were going to keep them together, it was like my prayer had been answered. They were able to find a family for us, a wonderful family that took him in. We were almost 2 days into having to turn in the keys for the house. A wonderful family that took him in said they were able to keep him from that day on. They couldn't have picked a more wonderful family that they picked for us.
Our Keep Me Home team is actively keeping pets with their families or finding them new, loving homes every single day. In the beginning of 2024, as we entered our 15th year, we celebrated another milestone. We raised the money needed to pay off the mortgage for the sanctuary. Shadows Fund now owns the sanctuary outright, guaranteeing that there will always be a home for the animals who need us most. As we look ahead at the next 15 years, our focus is on investing in our community, educating and empowering everyday people to help their friends and neighbors, working with our local shelters to continually help them help more dogs. What we have come to understand is that sanctuary is not a place. It's a state of mind, a philosophy, a commitment to protect the vulnerable.
When we met Jill and Cody and they did an introduction to the sanctuary, they explained to us their philosophy. It was kind of an epiphany. It completely aligned with how we were trained as social workers, what our education was all about. And so it resonated. It was very familiar. We just didn't really usually hear it in the context of an animal setting. So that was heartening.
They're complete angels. My angel, anyways. Penelope's angel, for sure. It's been a challenge. I feel bad for dogs like Penelope. Because dogs like her usually get put down. They usually don't get second chances. And Shadows Fund has created and is giving not just her, but hundreds of dogs second chances.
We want to inspire people, whether they work or volunteer in shelters or just have pets of their own, to be that safe harbor. That is our vision of animal rescue, reimagined.